Week 15 continued to shake up the playoff races in both conference. We're going to break it all down today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys, me and dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'd like to issue a big thank you and shout out to our everydayers and those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day. We appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Joe, I would like to issue my own decree as we roll out of Week 15. We still have Philadelphia at Seattle tonight. We'll see if Jalen Hurts is going to play with the flu or not. But are you at all up to speed on what the results were from our Thursday pick'em?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about you and me. There's a bigger storyline at play here. You're currently 3-0. We were different on 3 games. So you have a chance to climb all the way out of a 4-game hole that you've been sitting in effectively all season long. Joe, the show is 12-3 against the spread this week.
Beautiful thing.
The show is up to 56% on the season against the spread.
They had a big week 2 weeks ago too, right? So it's been coming along here.
That's right. And now 12-3. The show's on Philly. You and I consensus faded the show twice. The Cleveland Browns at home against the Chicago Bears, and the Carolina Panthers at home against the Atlanta Falcons. And the show got us both times.
Might not want to miss those Thursday conversations, right? Where we pick them and the show picks against the spread, and it's been doing well. So,
yeah, it's a lot of fun. It'll be a tight race, but there's a few tight races across the league that are not just you and I trying to pick the correct winners of games. Starting with the AFC South, I don't think there's a more interesting division right now than the AFC South, right?
3 teams in it, man. 3, 8, and 6 teams.
Games from this weekend that were relevant in the AFC South. Jacksonville lost last night to Baltimore in just shoot yourself in the foot in every possible way type fashion. Really ugly performance from Jacksonville. Houston comes back in overtime with their backup quarterback. Case Keenum, not even their regularly scheduled backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Davis Mills was the regularly scheduled backup quarterback. They win in overtime against the Titans 19-16. And then the Colts absolutely shellacked Pittsburgh on Saturday, 30-13.
It feels like the hot hand here is the Colts, right? They just keep finding ways to win games. The huge head-to-head win over Pittsburgh. They've won 5 of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they've won 5 of their last 6 games. And that includes a head-to-head win over Tennessee. They got 2 wins over Tennessee already. They've beaten Houston. And like week 18, they play Houston again. Like the Colts feel like the team that's in the driver's seat, right? Like the Jacksonville Jaguars a few weeks ago, we were talking about, the 1 seed. Like they might not get in if they don't get it together here the rest of the way. I feel like the Colts are in the driver's seat when it comes to this division.
If you ask me how I like the teams that are tied at 8 and 6, and there's 3. There's Houston, who's 2-2 in the division. There's Tennessee, there's Indianapolis, who's 3-2 in the division, and then there's Jacksonville, who's 4-1 in the division. I still think I like Indy and Houston more than Jacksonville right now. Jacksonville finishes with 2 out of 3 on the road. They got to go to Tampa, and they got to go to Tennessee. They get the home game against Carolina. We found out overnight Trevor Lawrence is in concussion protocol. There's only been a handful of players that have made it back the same week. So you're looking at a road game in Tampa against a Tampa team that's starting to get a little hot.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them later in the show. And conversely, Indy or Houston One of them is going to collect a win because they play each other. And then you look at it from Indy's perspective, they got Atlanta, who dropped a really bad game yesterday. And they got the Raiders. And 2 of the last 3 are at home. So I think you look at what they've done, but also the schedule that's outlined here the rest of the way. A Week 18 between Houston at Indianapolis is obviously huge, but I just think the optics of all the teams, Indy looks to be in the best shape right now when you project the next 3 weeks out.
I would agree there. The Titans eliminated from the playoff race, so Levy Grail coming your way this week at some point. So, yeah, the South is crazy. I think Baltimore getting that win over Jacksonville last night was obviously big for them, getting to 11-3. They're the current 1 seed. Huge head-to-head matchup with Miami in a couple of weeks, which will have a lot to say in the 1 seed. But Cleveland, right? Cleveland being able to pull that one out. 3 Joe Flacco interceptions, but like clutch when it mattered. And you think about that result, you think about the Bengals result on Saturday. Those were big moments in this AFC wildcard race where you still have the 6 through 9 teams all at 8-6 with the Browns the 5 seed at 8-5. So
9-5.
9-5, excuse me. Yeah, sorry to take away from the Browns here, but it's tight. It's tight. I don't know that the division race is tight.
That Browns win is a monumental one, and acknowledging how that game ended, right, with the Hail Mary at the end where it lands, was it Mooney's lap? That ball
it was in his lap, and he fumbled it around and kicked it for an interception. Yikes.
To stay a win ahead of the 8-6 field for Cleveland is huge.
Huge. Oh, right? And with
that's
3 to play?
It goes without saying, but they play Houston. They're home against the Jets on a short week, and then they got Cincinnati. So I don't think they're out of the woods yet.
No.
But if they get in, they're going to earn it. And they're going to continue to earn it. And they've won 2 of the last their last 2, and 4 of the last 6 they've won. So
earn it, I think, is the right way to put it, Kyle. Down to your 4th quarterback, both your tackles are hurt. Nick Chubb's hurt. I mean, the team's been hurt. Everything's hurt, right? And I give them all the credit in the world for sticking in it. And same thing with Cincinnati, right? Like a team that I think can make a lot of excuses and feel sorry for themselves. Well, they've won 3 in a row with Jake Browning at quarterback, and they're not going away here in this AFC wildcard race.
The thing that worries you about Cincinnati is the conference record. They're 3-6 in the conference.
Yep.
So,
but they have the tiebreaker over Buffalo, which is potentially could matter a lot.
Right. But for Cincinnati's perspective, you need to not tie those other teams. Because if you get into a multi-team tie and it trickles down,
correct. Right.
That's where it's going to bite you.
But tiebreakers over the Bills, tiebreaker over the Jaguars, tiebreaker over the Colts. That's helpful in their.
That is helpful.
In the logjam here. Kyle, heard about this AFC East race. Dolphins a 2-game lead. Big win over the Jets. Bills getting a big win over the Cowboys.
Week 18 is going to decide it. You could sit here and talk about how the Dolphins could beat the Cowboys and the Ravens, and it won't matter, and that's fine. I'm here to tell you, they're going to play Week 18 in Miami, and it's probably going to be the game that gets flexed, and that's going to be who determines who wins the AFC East. So
I think we got to acknowledge it. We got to acknowledge it here as we're talking about these races. Dolphins go out and win the next 2. I saw the Travis Wingfield tweet. You win next week, you clinch the playoffs. You beat the Ravens, you clinch the East. You beat the Bills, you clinch the 1 seed. It's right there for the Dolphins. Can they do it?
It is.
With Buffalo breathing down their neck, right? That's kind of what's happening here.
I think the thing for Miami that's going to be so essential, and I think that what made the win so impressive when you win 30-0 was if you looked at the preseason, and everybody's got injuries, right? I get it. But when you get the game day 90 minutes before and you find out Tyreek Hill's not going to go, you knew Robert Hunt wasn't going to go because he has a hamstring issue. You find out Javon Holland's not going. You find out Xavier Howard's not going. You go down the list and you caught a break in Liam Eichenberg being able to go. And Dolphins fans never thought they would have said that, but Connor Williams is on injured reserve with a torn ACL. So you legit had like 3 cornerstone players who 90 minutes before the game, you weren't sure if they were going to dress or not. And none of them dressed. And then you still come out. And Dolphins fans' reactions to the collapse on Monday Night Football was, oh, same old Dolphins, here we go, they're going to lose another game. And for them to come out and just emphatically put their foot on the throat without, it's like 3 cornerstone players, 3 quality starters, and 3 adequate starters are what they're missing from their starting lineup right now. That was really impressive. How many of those guys they get back and how quickly they get them back, I think determines how much success they have in this final 3-game stretch.
Yeah, it'll be important. The game was interesting for about 30 seconds. And then, the Dolphins were just the better team and came away with a 30-0 win over the hapless New York Jets. We'll have a funeral for them tomorrow here on the Locked On NFL Scouting. We're going to get into the NFC side of this equation here in just a moment, so stick with us. But when you're hiring for your small business, you want to make sure that you have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Well, thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. And they even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, which makes the process even easier and even quicker. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
I think we're probably going to acknowledge the Buffalo Bills in the midst of this NFC conversation, right?
Yeah,
you mentioned the game, but that outcome right up there with the list of most impressive outcomes of the week.
31-10 over Dallas. Dallas 5-game win streak, 40 points per game throughout it. But they continue to be a really different team at home versus on the road. All 4 of their losses on the road, in Philly, in Buffalo, in Arizona, in San Francisco, and none of those games were particularly close. So Dallas is going to have to kind of figure out how to win away from AT&T Stadium. And their next opportunity to do that is in Miami this coming week. So it'll be a big test for them. But they're also going to have to do it in the playoffs. They're not going to have a home playoff game on all likelihood here. And obviously Seattle tonight against Philly is going to be a big one. But if Dallas can't figure out how to play away from AT&T Stadium, they're just going to continue to be this like momentarily darling that just is not a complete. The results are just too drastically different for us to ignore it any longer.
Yeah. And the way in which they lost, and I know it was cool and wet in Buffalo. So about as polar opposite as you could have got from AT&T Stadium, right? Like conditions, but they never really looked like they had a pulse against Buffalo on either side of the ball, which was what was so eye-opening. I'm watching and I'm like, okay, like this offense has been humming. The defense has been fast and flying around. Going to wait for it the switch to flip. I know you had to ask Marcus Mosher what was wrong with this team last week when you did your crossover with him. And he said, the run defense. How's James Cook looking? Second in the AFC in rushing. I think second in the NFL in rushing right now.
Yeah. Third in scrimmage yards. So it's Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, James Cook, the top 3 in the NFL in scrimmage yards. So go figure. I know one of us here predicted James Cook to have 1,000 rushing yards. And it was that guy. That guy over there. He's the one that did it. So
to get hit with the mirrored screens. I hate
right. Yeah. I think that was the first time I've ever tried it. So I know that you had a stretch there for a while, and I told myself I wouldn't do it. And we screwed that up. But yeah, big James Cook, big statement game for the Bills. But yeah, their next 2, the Chargers, Patriots, they got to take care of that and give themselves a chance to. I mean, if Miami wins their next 2, then they'll have it locked up. But I mean, if you can still win in Week 18, that's going to get you to 11 wins. I think that's going to put the Bills in, and I think they'll be a dangerous team in the playoffs. But in the NFC side of things, the 49ers and Eagles clinched yesterday, right? The 49ers clinched the West. Eagles clinched a playoff spot. So did Dallas. Dallas actually clinched a playoff spot before the game even happened, despite a loss there. And so it's interesting to kind of consider, this number 1 seed. We'll get into the NFC South, the wild card dynamics, but you posted the question here: are the 49ers in the clear for the 1 seed? And with their closing stretch of Ravens, Commanders, Rams, with that we'll see what happens tonight with Philly, knowing that the 49ers have that tiebreaker, it feels like they're in the clear.
And then also from a NFC playoff picture standpoint, I just looked this up. Detroit, if Seattle loses, Detroit clinches tonight.
So that'll be fun for Detroit, right?
Right.
Their big game.
As
they
far
had
as
a big
San
win.
Francisco goes,
Off. Yeah.
We get next week San Francisco hosting Baltimore on Monday Night Football on Christmas Day. Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Yeah.
That's one that's big time circled, obviously, for San Francisco. The thing that was important about Dallas dropping the game was, I think, it eliminated them from the conversation of what happens if San Francisco trips. Because whoever was going to catch them, you would need San Francisco to trip for a game, and then you would have to run the table coming into this week. Philly still has the chance to do that. Dallas does not, because Dallas already lost. So San Francisco, after Baltimore, if that would be their trip game, they finish with Washington and the Rams, who they've had so much success against head-to-head during this era of both teams. So if you're really good about San Francisco getting to 13 wins, which means you were going to need 14 wins if you're one of those other two teams to catch him. So Dallas, that's off the table because they now have 4 losses. Philly at Seattle. Then they finish Giants twice in Arizona. So that's interesting. I think it puts a lot more weight on tonight's game for Philadelphia.
Huge.
And then they're big-time Baltimore Ravens fans. But I say all that to say I do think San Francisco's in the clear. But even if they're not, I still think they comfortably clear the rest of the conference with just the way things are operating right now.
And if you're Philly, if you can win this one tonight, which is no small chance, you're going to Seattle prime time. It's not potentially we'll see what happens with Jalen Hurts.
Hurts to stay.
Giants, Cardinals, Giants to close it out. You feel good about that.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously,
stretch for Philly.
Right, but coming out of consecutive losses to the Niners and Cowboys that weren't competitive, weren't competitive games. So they got to kind of get it going here, and you want to play your best football at the right time. And I don't know that even kind of dating back to that Bills game that they won, they played a good second half, but I don't think you look at Philly right now and feel like they're playing their best ball, and they got kind of 4 games to figure that out.
Which NFC North team took the worst loss? Chicago with the failed Hail Mary at the end. Minnesota with the T. Higgins touchdown in the final minute of overtime or of regulation to send it to overtime. Or Green Bay getting shellacked at home by Tampa Bay.
It's probably a good case to be made for all of them. The one that I feel like the one that hurts the most to me is probably Green Bay. I mean, Minnesota, you're down to Nick Mullins, right? You can only expect so much. Chicago, you're not really in it, right? So, hard losses, Green Bay's the team that's at home and gives up a perfect passer rating to Baker Mayfield at Lambeau Field when we're talking about you being in the driver's spot for one of these playoff spots. And now you've lost 2 in a row to the Giants and Bucks after knocking off the Chargers, Lions, and Chiefs. We're getting on the Packers hype train. Joe Barry, what's up? Can we talk about Joe Barry, this coordinator? This guy was a clown in Cleveland, right? Everybody thought he was just the dumps, and now you hand it over to this guy. Packers have had a problem here with getting this defensive coaching staff right for a long time.
Yeah, and 34 points on at home against Tampa Bay it's a tough pill to swallow. And I know Tampa Bay is starting to come on a little bit. There's some of their young guys have started to get a little bit more experience, and they've been performing at a little bit better level, but it's a hard sell. Tampa, by the way, won their last 3 games. Talk about the NFC South here real quick. You got the big win on the road, which I think really changes the outlook of that division in the same way that we talk about the AFC South, because now you've also got New Orleans, who won comfortably this week. against the New York Giants by 18 points. And then the Falcons tripping up against against Carolina in front of all 6 people that showed up and rubbed 2 quarters together to buy a ticket for that game at Bank of America.
The guy for Dave Tepper. Just when I got off the Bucs bandwagon, you know what I mean? Like I was in for a little bit, and they go out and do this. I'm kind of buying into Atlanta. They're falling on their face.
Can I do this for you real quick? Because they all have either 3 or 2 wins in the division. They all have divisional games left to play. Here's the remaining schedules for all 3 teams, and then we'll go to break. Tampa, home against Jacksonville, potentially with backup quarterback. Home against New Orleans, and in Carolina to close the season. That's Tampa.
Okay.
It's a good draw. New Orleans, home or on the road on a short week in LA against the Rams. Don't like that. In Tampa against the Bucs. Don't like that. Home against the Falcons, week 18. The Falcons.
I don't love that. Yeah.
Home against the Colts this week. At Chicago. At New Orleans to close.
I feel like I'd want to be Tampa.
I would want to be Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And your objective is to not do the NFC South thing.
Right. And the little buried storyline here is the Panthers getting a second win. Bears don't like that. They want that number 1 pick. So we'll see if the Panthers can get another win here and really mess up this draft order. So stick with us. We got more to get to here today. But as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. I've been pounding the table for the James Cook receiving yard overs, and they hit again this week. They had about 23.5, and Cook had over 40 yards receiving this week. So ride that with me. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Okay. So we've largely done is there any games we didn't acknowledge their existence of?
The Chiefs beat the
Rams
Patriots.
beat the Commanders.
Yeah.
Chiefs beat the Patriots. I think that's it. We did pretty good.
Well, we did like Thursday night. Well, no, we got into Thursday night on Friday. Excuse me. Yeah, that happened already.
Right.
Lord.
Well, we glossed over New Orleans beating the Giants.
Detroit with a huge win over the Lions. Over the Broncos. 5 touchdown passes for Jared Goff. Denver can't stop the run, folks. Run the ball. Run the ball, Adam. I've been trying to tell you this. I mean, I thought the Dolphins told you in week 4 or whatever that they can't stop the run.
350
Not much
yards
has changed. You just got to test it. You got to test it against that team. I don't know about those Broncos.
Yeah, they're another team that you don't love what they have down the stretch. They got New England this week, so you feel good about that. But the Patriots have shown a little bit of life the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're not quitting. They're not quitting. Yeah.
Oh, they took Chiefs for about 30 minutes? Kept it like really interesting. And then Denver has the Chargers, which you get at home. Chargers get a little extra rest coming into that game, though, because the Chargers play on Saturday the week prior against the Bills on Peacock. And only on Peacock.
I gotta get my subscription this week. Figure that out.
I will find an illegally streamed
Kyle Crabbs
source for the game, and I will provide you for the link so you don't have to feed into this nonsense of having to subscribe for an NFL or a subscription service to watch one NFL football game.
Hey, they thought they were getting Josh Allen versus Justin Herbert, and they're not. They're not getting that.
Nope. Stick.
Right. I have all the nerves about that game. So yeah, I think that's the games that are acknowledged. I know that we want to do thought or not, but like I feel an urgency to talk about the draft order a little bit.
Okay.
With kind of like Carolina getting that second win, New England and Arizona are chilling at 3 at the 2 and 3 spot, and then you have Washington at 4 and 10, the 4 spot. Then a bunch of 5 and 9 teams. The race for the number 1 pick is pretty fascinating. Is there a win for Carolina? Can you pull that schedule up?
Carolina's remaining schedule is home against Green Bay, in Jacksonville, and home against Tampa Bay.
Does not look good for a win, right?
No.
So you're still feeling pretty good if you're Chicago, but you like the 2-game buffer.
If you're New England, I think New England has 2 winnable games left on the schedule. Denver.
Okay.
And home against the Jets, week 18. This will play the Bills, but they're not going to tag the Bills twice this year. Sorry, they're just not.
Play it and find out.
Play the game.
Arizona at 3 wins.
Arizona closes with at Chicago, at Philadelphia, home against Seattle.
Okay, so I don't know, man. They might be able to win.
But I don't know that Arizona, New England winning a game and moving behind Arizona, who does that really impact? Does it just open the door for a team to trade in front of New England?
I think so. If Arizona's the number 2 pick, I mean, we had this conversation. Marvin Harrison Jr. or a lot of stuff.
And I would still, that becomes so simple to just say, okay, New England, your win cost you a 3rd-round pick. Swap spots with Arizona and let's move on. Yeah, and shame on the Patriots if they drop behind Arizona because they do win a game and then they don't play defense. And just you're 1 spot behind them. All you have to do is make sure nobody gets up in front of you.
Oh, man. And then there's
from a chaos perspective, I think Washington getting in front of them too would be really fun. And they go Jets, 49ers, Cowboys to close the season.
And they've lost 5 in a row. This is the least hot team in football. The coldest team in football is the Washington Commanders. Really got on track there firing Jack Del Rio.
Yeah, it took care of all their problems. And here's a fun fact. If New England did win another game based on current strength of schedule, Washington would be in front of New England. So New England would drop 2 spots.
So if you're just lose, baby.
Just lose.
Like if you're New England, you want that number 2 pick, man. You do.
Mm-hmm.
But they're competing because Bill's got to get his wins, man.
Right, because that's the whole reason Bill's still here is to get the all-time wins record.
I learned yesterday.
And he's leaving, so he doesn't care.
I learned yesterday the address of the Miami Dolphins is 324 Shula Way or something like that. What is this?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the number? Whatever it is, like for how many wins Don Shula has? You know Belichick's after this, man.
Formal. It's 347 Don Shula Drive.
Yeah. I think that's a super cool address. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
And Bill would like to disrupt that a little bit. Maybe if he could have won a few more in Miami over his tenure, he'd be in better shape, but he couldn't. Had all those weird losses.
If he won in Miami at the same percentage rate as he won everywhere else
right.
in his career, he'd probably be like on the doorstep of getting it right now.
We have so many sidebar conversations on this, and like every time we do, we uncover some type of dynamic. But yeah, that's the reality there. Like you didn't come close to your norms in Miami, the place that you're trying to top the guy. So yeah, this draft order stuff is going to be really fascinating, especially when we get to these dynamics of like some of these divisional races where the stakes of the getting to the playoffs and winning the division versus what you would be in the draft position, particularly in the South.
Right.
Going to be drastic. Because playoff teams, the lowest a playoff team can pick is what? Like, is it
17? 18.
Because there's 14 of them. Yeah, yes. 19.
Don't make me do the math. 19 is the lowest wild or playoff pick. So there's 18 on the outside and 14 on the inside. I got a thought. You want it?
All right. Yeah, let's take it.
The Pittsburgh Steelers do not win another game.
All right. So they've been pretty hapless here. They've lost 3 of 4, including their last 3 to the Cardinals, Patriots, and Colts. And
they've lost Bengals. 4 of 5.
Yeah. Bengals, Seahawks, Ravens. Their most
And
winnable
those last
game is
two were
this
on the
coming
road.
one. They got to find a way to beat the
Yeah,
Bengals at home. So this would
At
be all the
Seattle, at
stuff
Baltimore.
here. Tomlin would have the losing record, right?
Yep.
Man.
And I think I think there's way too much smoke about Mike Tomlin moving on for me to not think that Mike Tomlin's not moving on.
What does that look like? Do you think that's a trade? Is this the Washington trade that people talk about?
Maybe. I certainly think that it's a more likely trade scenario than just mutually parting ways with Bill Belichick as the second oldest coach in football.
Man,
everybody's like, "Oh, trade first round pick for Bill Belichick."
Belichick and Tomlin in the same offseason, dude. That'd be something. Be something to see if those guys coaching other teams. Be so weird, man.
Right.
But Tomlin to Washington makes me feel some type of way. Like you're trying to get stability with this new owner.
It's the fit. It's the fit.
Just kind of is, man.
Speaking of fits and cultures, I got another thought for you.
All right.
Tampa Bay should have taken what they could get for Devin White before the season started.
Oh, brother.
Healthy and active yesterday.
I certainly recall an episode on this feed back in March, April about Devin White and his $100 million contract demands and what he's actually been on tape. Are you kidding?
Were there people upset at that? I think there were some people upset at our opinion on it. People are upset about everything, so it's not.
Yeah.
Not
I always assume that's true. I'm pretty numb to that.
I'm pretty sure there were some people that did not appreciate that insight.
Well, I promise you that we'll be honest, right? We studied the tape. We told you what the player is. I mean, show us the lies that we told. I can't find any.
Do you have any before you're there?
No, I feel
not lies.
No.
Thoughts.
Yeah,
thoughts. You have any thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts on the Jets, and we're gonna have their funeral tomorrow. So
come on back and see us. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I'm Kyle Crabbs. Look, Joe, you point this way. He is Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys for checking out the show. That's going to do it for us on this Monday episode of Locked On NFL Scouting. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy Monday Night Football tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow to do our debrief of the Jets 2023 season now that they have officially been eliminated from the playoffs.